Today's lesson is on multiplication and division using scientific notation. And we'll take a look at some of these examples. So what we're going to do with our first example here for multiplication. So we have 13,000 multiplying by 340,000. So just to multiply this using scientific notation, the first thing we'll do is put these numbers into scientific notation. So we'll move our decimal place over 1, 2, 3, 4 to make that first number 1.3 times 10 to the power of 4. And then we have that being multiplied by the second number. So let's change that to scientific notation as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that becomes 3.4 times 10 to the power of 5. All right, once you've done that, you can take the two numbers here, the 1.3 and the 3.4, and we can multiply those together. So 1.3 times 3.4, and that's being multiplied by 10 to the power of 4 and 10 to the power of 5. So we'll multiply those two together. All right, and now we can use our exponent rules here. What do we do to our exponents when the same base are being multiplied? Yes, that's correct. So we would add. So here 1.3 times 3.4, that just becomes 4.42. And then we have 10 to the power of 4 plus 5, which is 10 to the power of 9. So our answer is 4.42 times 10 to the power of 9. All right, and it's a similar process when we're doing division. We'll change our numbers to scientific notation. So let's change the first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that becomes 2.25 times 10 to the power of 6. And it's being divided by 2.5 times 10 to the power of 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, so we can take 2.25 divided by 2.5. Just like that. And take the two exponents. So let's just put this in brackets like this. And we have 10 to the power of 6 divided by 10 to the power of 3. So what would we do to our exponents there? That's correct. We would subtract them. All right, so 2.25 divided by 2.5, that just gives me 0.9. And then we have times 10 to the power of 3. All right, now notice this one here, it isn't put into scientific notation because it's 0.9, and our numbers should be between 1 and 10. So we're just going to move that decimal place over one more, just to put the decimal place there. So that would become 9.0 times 10 to the power of 2, right? Because we moved our decimal place 1 to the right. Okay, so for our third example here, we have multiplication and division. So let's change all of those numbers into scientific notation. So 36,000, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is 3.6 times 10 to the power of 4. Let me rewrite that. 10 to the power of 4. And that is being multiplied by a smaller number. So we're moving our decimal place to the right. 1, 2, 3. So that is 7.4 times 10 to the power of negative 3, just like that, and then it's being divided by 4,000, so we'll change that to 1, 2, 3, so 4 times 10 to the power of 3. Alright, so that's what it looks like putting it all into scientific notation. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we're going to take all our numbers. So we're going to take 3.6 times 7.4, and it's being divided by 4. So I'm just going to rewrite that out here. So it's 3.6 times 7.4, and it's being divided by 4. And I'll just put that in brackets. Then we have 10 to the power of 4 times 10 to the power of negative 3, and then it's being divided by 10 to the power of 3. So 10 to the power of 4 times 10 to the power of negative 3, and it's being divided by 10 to the power of 3. All right, so this part here, you can just do a quick calculation in your calculator, and that gives us 6.66. All right, and then here we would add our exponents. It's 4 plus negative 3 minus 3. All right, so that would give me, just pause it here. All right, so for the exponents, it's 4 plus negative 3 subtracting the 3. So that becomes 6.66 times 10 to the power of negative 2. All right, so for this question, we already have the two numbers put into scientific notation. So we just have to multiply these two numbers, 3.4 times 1.3. So you can just put that in your calculator and you get 4.42. And then we have 10 to the power of 4 and 10 to the power of 2 multiplied together. So we would just add those exponents to give me 10 to the power of 6. All right, and this is already in scientific notation. All right, so for this question then, we would take the 6.6 divided by 2 as shown here. Then we have the 10 to the power of 8 divided by 10 to the power of 3. So 6.6 divided by 2, that's 3.3. And then times 10 to the power of 8 minus 3. So we get 3.3 times 10 to the power of 5. All right, so 3.4 times 4 divided by 6.8, that gives you 2. And then for our exponent for times 10 to the power of, we're going to add negative 1 plus negative 2. So it's negative 1 plus negative 2, and then subtract the negative 5. All right, so it's important that you are putting your exponents, adding them and subtracting them correctly. So again, here they're being multiplied, so we add the exponents, so negative 1 plus negative 2, and then we're subtracting negative 5. All right, and that will give you 2 times 10 to the power of 2. All right, so for this next example, we're going to take the 1.56, multiply it by 2, divide it by 4, and then we have our exponents, 10 to the power of 5 times 10 to the power of negative 3 divided by 10 to the power of 3. All right, so 1.56 times 2 and then divided by 4, that gives me 0.78. And when we're doing our exponents, we have 5 plus negative 3. Just going to write that out. So 5 plus negative 3, and then we have minus 3. So that gives me 0.78 times 10 to the power of negative 1. All right, but this number should be between 1 and 10. So then we're just going to move the decimal place over one more there to the right. So it becomes 7.8 times 10 to the power of negative 2.